My name is Santos Rodriguez. I served 20 years in the military, and the service that I was in was I went to the Marines first, did almost 4 years. After 4 years, I got out. I went out looking for a job. Couldn't find a job, so I thought about going back in the military. At that time, there was about 2 or 3 recruiters in the same building, but the Air Force guy had a better talk than the rest of them. And he says, even being in the Marines, you don't even have to go into basic. You'll go straight into tech school. I thought about it, and about a month or so later, I decided that I'd go in the Air Force. In the Air Force, I did the rest of my career, 20 years. I enjoyed the Air Force. It was more of a technical training than when I got used to when I was in the Marines. In the Marines, I was infantry. I was weapons. I had rockets, and my partner was a machine gunner. Our job was to make sure that we got rid of the big guys. We went on different missions. We went on infantry reports. Infantry reports was we found what was going on. We turned it back to the commander. Commander turned it back to the different personnel that needed that information. We also did reconnaissance. During reconnaissance, what we did was gather information in actually the field. Who was there, what kind of weapons they were using, what way they were going, whether they was going north or south. Came back, gave them a report. Mainly just trying not to make too much contact with the enemy, but enough to pass on the information to those who needed it.
What year did you enlist into the Marines?
I enlisted in the Marines in '64.
What was the training and boot camp like?
We had the normal infantry training, climbing and dodging so-called bullets. Went through the rope training and everything else. When I got done with that training, they decided that they were going to put me in recruiting. By recruiting, I'm talking about recon. In recon, our job was to find information, pass it back to the big shots, and let them at least give whatever they thought about the information that we had gathered. And that, of course, was passing it down to those battalion personnel or personnel that had the weapons that were needed in order to get rid of whatever enemy action we thought we was going to receive or they were going to receive. Our job was to shoot down big houses, or, well, they're not houses, we'll call them hooches. We used to pass the information on, or they come get me and tell me we need you, and the actual weapons that we needed or who we were going against. And my job was, if it was getting too much incoming fire, well, virtualated, we call it, where people were there and could cause a lot of damage, I was called upon to either knock off the bridge or knock off the hooches that they lived in, or whatever holes they might be in, that we could get them out, and there'll be no, I call it, not worry about our number of personnel versus their number of personnel. And our job was to get rid of that enemy.
And with your time in the Marines, where were you deployed to?
Oh, we had a whole bunch we went up to Coochie, Chuchi, we went to all the way almost up north. Our job was to guard a bridge and do not allow the enemy to either destroy it, or if we had to, we went to sites where they needed to be destroyed. Whatever equipment, whatever bridge, whatever it was, our job was to get rid of that site.
And this is all in Vietnam?
This is all in Vietnam as a Marine.
Were you all, it was on the ground?
Well, they took us there. We rode a lot on choppers. Depending on what information we got and what we had to destroy, our job was to go out and get it. Most of it was making contact with the enemy. Sometimes we weren't allowed to make contact, but we were allowed to pass the information to other infantry troops or whoever needed to be there to destroy that enemy and whatever weapons they needed. Ours was more or less face-to-face contact in a lot of cases, but most of the time is to get rid of whatever would deploy and attack us. So that's what mostly I did.
When you first got to Vietnam, what are some of the senses you remember feeling, like smell, sounds, sight?
When we first got there, we was at the beach mainly loading and unloading equipment. Once they felt that we had enough training or adjusted to whatever the weather was at the time, once they felt we was in combat mode, That's when we started going up the mountains or across bridges, trying to make contact so we could either report him back or set up ambushes at night. The smell, you always smell that rotten smell, buffalo shit, and try to get rid of some of the equipment that they were used to include the animals they had. They used a lot of water buffaloes. We also got rid of water buffaloes too, because that was one means of them collecting whatever equipment or cargo they needed, and that was more or less their cargo trucks, if you want to call them that.
Within those first few times you're going more inland and through the mountain regions, are there any stories that come to mind?
Well, we got hit a couple of times and we fought back. We had a lot of casualties. Most of the time we went and got rid of whatever could be used against us or any of our friendly troops. That's what we did.
Did you ever feel scared?
I was scared all the time.
And what was it like the first time you got into a gunfight?
I just did my job. There was no scare my first couple of months. Then after a while, I saw some of my buddies go down. And so the scare part went away. Didn't go away. It was more or less being able to withhold whatever fear you had and wherever we went to make sure that we did that job.
How would you describe how the Vietnamese fought?
They were good fighters. They knew their area. They knew how to use whatever was available, anything with the nature or anything that they could use. There was good soldiers. There was good fighters.
And are there any combat scenarios which stand out the most to you, the most memorable?
I was on Hill 22. We went there to give them support to our other infantry brothers. We got hit a lot of times. We got surprised a lot of times. We tried to get them before they got us. Not much of going out in the daytime. Most of our missions were at night. Try to get rid of some of the booby traps on anything that they would set up. Trying to find out where they were settled at. Find out if they have any holes that we could go into. Just everyday fighting. I mean, there was nothing special except we got shot, they got shot, we got killed. We killed some of them. So there's nothing that to come up and say, well, it was this and it was glorious or not. It was just a means of getting them before they got us, and a lot of times it was the opposite.
What would you say ran through your mind the first time you fired a shot at someone?
I had to shoot. That's what I learned, is to shoot. I mean, there was fear, but I was more fearful of getting caught than me catching them, so we did what we could.
Did you pray a lot?
Yeah, we prayed a lot. I wasn't the praying type, so my job was trying to wipe out as many of them as I could with the weapons that was given to me. We also worked with C4 ammunition that we used to blow up either bridges, large homes, or places where I knew that supply was at. We got a rundown from our other brothers, and they told us exactly what was there to be destroyed, and that's what we did.
Did you see a lot of explosions?
I did see a lot of explosions, yes, I did.
What is that like, feeling and seeing the explosion during a gunfight or during combat exchanges?
The first couple of months, you kind of be scared or kind of be on your toes, want to make sure that I learned from my last experience what it was that I needed to do in order not to get hit. But after a while, it was just everyday occurrence. It's just that you get used to it after a while. I mean, you're still scared, but you more or less looking out for making sure that they don't hit you and you hit them before they get you.
What would you say is the craziest thing you'd witnessed during your time in Vietnam?
C4 going off, rockets going off, incoming fire. It was mainly, it wasn't hand to hand, but it was, assault and hoping you don't get caught before you catch them. So
were there ever any times where you thought that might be like it for you, or that you weren't going to come out of the situation?
You always have fear. Can't no one tell you that they weren't scared. You just try to either hold it within or learn what you learned from your infantry training time or what you learn as you go. That's all you could do. Go forward and do what you have to do, and watch some of your friends pass on or either get evacuated, helicopter evacuations. That's what we did.
You said a lot of your operations were at night?
Most of them was at night, unless we were moving somewhere where we were going to have to go and set up for that mission, whether it was an ambush or destroying of equipment, destroying of animals, or anything else that could at least slow them down.
Are there any specific memories from a specific mission, things you can recall?
Like I said, most of it was attack or be attacked. Shoot first or get shot. We try to look out for each other, teach what you learn from previous experiences. But that's always that point where somebody else got hit. Normally a rocket man and a machine gun man is out there in the middle. So this way, if there's anything that we have to shoot down or rockets that we have to fire, we at least somewhere more or less being protected by other brothers too, because we was more or less the heavy equipment that they would need. It's normally small units, not 6, 7, 8 of them. It's not none specific. Whatever we found, whatever we had to, and whatever was reported to us.
Did you ever have to call in for air support?
Yes, we did. We did call air support. I didn't. The folks that I was with, they had to call them.
What does that process look like, and what was it like witnessing the support come?
Our support was great. A lot of time it was slow, of course. It also depended on the weather. It depended on what we fell into. A lot of times we fell into a lot of traps where we had to learn how to get out of it or either ask for support to get rid of it. It was too great of I would say, enemy coming to you, So whatever happened that day is the best way you could do it.
How would you describe the terrain and some of the villages you'd walk through or patrol through?
Mostly it was muddy. You go through rivers. You go on rice paddies. They also serve as a mean of protection. Try to remember what site it was so we would never fall in that trap again. Also, we go support other troops that needed the help.
How often was that where you had other troops calling for help?
We was a small unit. We weren't infantry type. We had maybe 1 or 2, and those 1 or 2 files that we had, we call them, we chased after them if we could, or ask for support. Like I said, mainly it's just be aggressive and follow our minds of what's going on. And what happens for that day is something that we just thought about, make sure we don't fall into it again.
What were some of the tactics that you guys use in gunfight?
It depends on the size. It depends on what kind of weapons we need. It depends what kind of support we needed. And we use each other as a unit, and that's what we did. Look out for each other.
What would you say were some things that helped keep you alive during everything?
Learning as I went.
What were your biggest takeaways from Vietnam?
Trying to learn more. Trying to make sure that they don't get me before I got them. Make sure that I looked out for my troops. Make sure when they needed support, I was there to support them. I would try my best to get rid of what was in front of me. Like I said, fear came, but after a while, it's not the fear, it's more or less your brother next to you that you're trying to look out for. And a lot of times you just forget what you're actually into. You just try to do the best you can.
How many gunfights do you think you'd probably been in? I know hard to guess, but in your whole time in Vietnam?
So we was out in the field all the time. Most of the time when we went back in the field, it was to get support or get munitions, whatever we would need that we might think we might need for the next time around in order to comply with whatever was there. But I say out of a year, 3 months was back in the field training and collecting ammunition. We got a chance to go see the USO. And most of the time we had to walk back because, the water was muddy. And, it was that sucking mud where once you step into it, it takes you a little while to get out of it. After a while, you learn how to get out of it.
And out of your entire time in Vietnam, what mission or operation would you say is the most memorable?
Was when we was instructed to sit up on the hills and just wait for the enemy to come by and try to get rid of them. Look out for elephants. When elephants were there, we know that someone will come by to pick up for food. And so we try to ambush them that way. So it was called ambushes that we went into. Like I said, since I was a weapons troop, I was on the mountaintops. I was used a lot if there was a lot of enemy down on the bottom of the hill. So we just fought as we saw it.
And how would you describe sort of the few seconds after you initiate the ambush?
Look out for enemies that might come back. We'll always use us as a troop, as a unit, set up wherever we know we needed the person. Their job is to make sure that they shoot us before they looked out for us. They looked for our radio man and things of that nature.
When you did initiate an ambush, typically would they try to stay or stand the ground, or would they flee and retreat?
They retreated, but they also fought back. They weren't scared. Normally, especially when we were outnumbered. They knew the area better than we did. So what we did was trying to set up an ambush where we thought it was best. But not all the time we were, successful, but we got our fair share.
Is there any ambush ambush that the Vietnamese pulled on you that comes to mind or is the most memorable?
Now, every day was the same thing. It's just like who's the smartest of the two and who has set up their area better than we did. You know, we know that last time they came from the left, from the right, from the rear, or whatever, and we try to fight that off.
What was it like finishing up your deployment there and getting told you were going home?
I was happy we were going home, but I turned around and volunteered for another year or so.
You stayed another year in Vietnam.
Another year, right.
And during that year, did anything change from your time prior?
No, it was, most of us was New Yorkers. We went in as a unit from New York. And we got to knowing each other, knowing what we're capable of doing and how to look out for each other. And so they more or less knew our signals. They knew what we had to do, what it meant. And a lot of times we learned different tricks from it. So it depended on how we got, attacked and what was the number of personnel versus ours and what support we were getting.
What was the biggest win you'd say you had in Vietnam? The biggest accomplishment mission-wise?
When we was on Hill 22, they attacked us, and they had a fair amount of people versus ours. And it lasted all day, all night, till we got support. Helicopters came in, dropped off some troops, pick up whoever was hurt, and try to get the best of them.
You get out of Vietnam, and you head home, and then you decide to join the Air Force.
Right.
What was it like transitioning from the Marines to the Air Force?
Well, first of all, I didn't have to go through basic. Once you go through Marine basic, you qualify for Air Force and Navy and everything else. Now, if you join the Marines from another branch, you have to go through the training all over again.
In your time in the Air Force, what does your job mostly consist of?
I was an aircraft maintenance person.
Where were you deployed and stationed?
I was in Da Nang and I went to Tak Ly. Then I went to Thailand and we were sending, aircrafts from Thailand to the different areas. We were stationed in one site. Our aircrafts came to us and we sent them back out to complete whatever mission they were told to comply with.
In Da Nang, so that's still in Vietnam, correct?
Yes, Da Nang is the capital.
Did you see any type of combat or close encounters while in the Air Force?
No, most of our combat was sending them out, wishing them good luck, and happy when they came back.
When the aircrafts would come back, the ones that were damaged, did you ever see any damage from combat?
Normally, any damage was always sent to an area where we didn't have to move it or we knew what we needed in order to repair that airplane.
Did you see a lot of artillery being sent out?
Normally, the security police was the one that met most of the enemy because their job was to come to our aircrafts, blow them up or whatever equipment we got that they felt they should get rid of.
How long were you in Vietnam while in the Air Force?
In the Air Force, I was 11 months.
And you go to Thailand, you said?
We went from there. We was going TDY, temporary duty. And if they needed you in another site, like everything else, we hoping that they got the equipment, we fixed the airplane, send them back out or send them back home.
How would you say the rest of your time in the service was? You're getting out Vietnam and Thailand and your temporary duty.
I enjoyed it. I spent most of my time overseas. I enjoyed not only the tourist portion of it, but it was easier. You don't have to worry about it, except incoming fire, and that was it.
Where was your favorite place?
Overseas, Thailand, Spain, Philippines. I stayed overseas quite a lot.
What was your rank by the time you finished?
Master Sergeant.
What were some of your duties as a Master Sergeant?
Supervisor. Make sure that I inspected the airplane before I signed off anything that needed to be signed off. I also was in charge of the troops, make sure they came to work on time, dressed right, and that was about it. It was more like stateside, but you're somewhere else, not in the States.
When you finally get out of the Air Force, 20 years altogether in, what did it feel like getting out and transitioning back to the civilian sector?
I went to work for an aircraft company.
Did you find that a lot of the training you got in the Air Force helped?
Almost 90% help. Once we got into that unit, then you get to know the aircraft itself. We know what the system is. We want to know how it works on that aircraft and learn how to repair it.
What was the most memorable experience from the Air Force?
Going to different sites, different countries.
After being out now, how many years was it that you got discharged?
I did 20, total 20 plus. We call it a day. And that was it. I enjoyed it. I received my degrees from aircraft, aeronautical engineering, aircraft maintenance. I got out as I'm going back home. I went by the Air Force Base and just looked around, and somebody else saw me and said, "How would you like to join us?" And so it was a civilian aircraft company, and I worked for them.
What are some reflections that you have on your time in service?
I loved it. I did what I was supposed to do. I learned. I took advantage of the portion of going to school. And at that time, I had to my college and get my degrees. I got aircraft maintenance license. I had an A&P license. And then the different sections of the aircraft that was supposed to be, taught into or thought about and how you could improve it.
Any of your thoughts change on the war in Vietnam or on war in general?
No, I went there. I was told to do something. I volunteered for it. And like I said, I try to get into overseas to portions where not only do I work, I also earn the respect of that nation and also support their people. So it was more of a learning and teaching.
Is there anything you would change about your time in Vietnam?
None.
And how do you feel about the United States?
I love the USA. I just hate those people that don't like the military, and I definitely don't like Trump. So you could take that off if you want to.
Well, thank you so much for your service, sir.
You're welcome.